everybody, Stewart A. Swerdlow here.
And Janet Diane Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the last week of July 2015. So the summer is just about halfway through. Now, last week, I believe, we warned you about the huge earthquake that's about to strike the Pacific Northwest from somewhere in British Columbia down to Northern California. And since that time, I believe there was a moderate earthquake in the Bay Area. And so now we have a warning for California. Oh, and actually, also this past week, there was a moderate earthquake in the Los Angeles area, which was literally a waking up for many people.
Wasn't that about 4.7?
No, it was 4. It was originally 4.3, then they changed it. Now they change it all, and then 4.2 and all that. But anyway, this week, there was a warning for the San Francisco Bay Area, and according to geophysicist Tom Brosher, who is with the USGS, he says scientists believe there's a strong evidence to suggest that a major quake will strike the Bay Area at any moment. And he said they are confident that a major earthquake will happen on the Hayward Fault Zone, a 74-mile-long fault line that runs along the east side of San Francisco Bay Area, near such cities as Oakland and Fremont. And it produced a big earthquake in 1868. Now, according to the USGS, anything larger than a magnitude 6 earthquake is very dangerous if it happens near a city, because obviously of the damage. Now, in this particular area, there's an average of 140 years between earthquakes. Some of them are only 90 years apart. And it's been 147 years since the 1868 earthquake struck the Bay Area. And there's a 70% chance of a magnitude 6.7 or greater in the next few years. And according to USGS, they said most people, this is the funny part, but not funny. But not funny. They said most people in the Bay Area will be fine after a quake. It's the potential lack of water, gas, electricity, and other things that might cause then you're not okay, right? And plus, if something falls on you, not a good thing. Now, he also says that earthquakes are rare enough that most people only experience one, and they don't know what it's really like. Well, here in Michigan, we've had a couple in the last few months, so California has it every day. Right. So for him to say only experience one, I don't know what, he must be on drugs.
Even when you visited California many years ago, you experienced many. You've experienced them in many parts of the world where you've been.
I seem to
That doesn't surprise me.
People pay me to stay away. Yeah. Okay, now let's go to Chicago. Something really strange happened there. Listen to this. They're calling it a creepy clown that was seen climbing the fence of a Chicago cemetery and waving at onlookers at 10 o'clock at night. It was at the Rose Hill Cemetery. Now, I believe the Rose Hill Cemetery is the famous one where the ghost of this girl in the 1920s, she's all dressed in an evening gown, and she sometimes waves cars down, and then she gets in and then she vanishes. I think that's the same cemetery. Well, anyway, the clown waved at these people and then went off into the graveyard, which is even more creepy. And it was caught on video. There was no vandalism involved, and according to CBS Chicago, quote, this was somebody putting forth an effort and being really weird. Oh, you think?
Well, remember the juggalo thing? So, remember, and clowns have a lot to do with programming.
Yeah, but listen.
Oh, there's more?
Yes, because it didn't just happen in Chicago. Strange clown sightings have been seen in California, Indiana, and Brooklyn, New York, as well as England, France, and Australia.
Oh, that's interesting.
Although in England and Australia, how would they know if it's a clown or a person? They don't know really. But anyway, so something's going on there.
Well, obviously they're trying
to
trigger people.
Now, speaking of triggers, a very bad thing happened this past week in Louisiana, where they called him a drifter by the name of John Hauser, shot 11 people in a movie theater, killing 2 women and injuring 9 other people, and then he killed himself. and they were watching a comedy Trainwreck, which I never heard of that one, Trainwreck. And apparently, he got into the theater, sat in the next to the last row, and they said a few minutes into the movie, I think it was 20 minutes into the movie, there was a line in the film that had some kind of sexual connotation that was supposed to be humorous, and that's when he stood up and started firing at these people. He used a high-point 40 caliber semi-automatic pistol, which was legally purchased last year in Alabama. And this is where he's from. He's from Georgia and Alabama, and they cannot say why he opened fire in the theater and why he was 500 miles away from his home. And he had no known connection to the city of Lafayette, Louisiana, which we drove through that one time.
Many years ago.
Many years ago. According to his brother, he showed up out of the blue, borrowed money. He hadn't been in contact with the family for 10 years. He told his sibling he needed money to continue moving on, living and surviving. So they gave him money and then hear from him again. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because apparently he had a journal online and a blog, and guess what? He was against the government. So here's another situation where they're going to use the conspiracy angle that all conspiracy people are dangerous and nuts.
But isn't it interesting that all these conspiracy people, or all these incidences, these people have journals, blogs, diaries, they happen to leave them behind.
Isn't
Remember
that
the guy in
interesting?
New York, the same thing? They leave them behind.
Well, how about like the 9/11 hijackers that happened to leave them, how to fly an airplane, left it on the seat in the lounge.
Yeah, and they found, of course, their passports.
I mean, seriously, it's just, again, unfortunately, a terrible setup.
Yeah.
But to the two women who were killed, interesting, Jillian Johnson, JJ, 33 years old, and Macy Bro, 21. They were the two women that were killed. And of course, 33 is a big Illuminati ritual number. 21 is 3 times 7, perfection times a completion.
Plus threes.
So it's very interesting.
And 2 plus 1 is a 3.
Yeah, and of course, now there's nothing on the story, so we'll see what
I'm
happens.
surprised only 2 people were killed.
Well, because people ran.
Thank
And
God.
there weren't
They
that
could
many.
get out.
There weren't that many. About 9 others
Because he
were
was at
shot.
the back of the theater.
9 others were shot, but they weren't killed.
And 9 is 3 times 3, isn't it?
Well, yes, there you go. Well, let's go to the Caribbean, but not for a good reason.
No?
No, because there is an underwater volcano ready to explode in the Caribbean Sea. Guess what the name of the volcano is?
Stewart.
No, but it's very close. The name of the volcano is Kickamjenny. Kickamjenny.
That sounds like I think they used to say that about donkeys and mules and things. They used to
Yeah,
call
but
them
that's like a
Jenny.
typical, pidgin English name for a place in the Caribbean.
It is.
Yeah, Kickamjenny volcano. Anyway, looks like Jenny is going to kick them because it's off the northern coast of Grenada. Its threat level has now been raised to orange, which means it can erupt within 24 hours with no notice. It's a crater 600 feet below the surface of the ocean, or 180 meters, and it will put ships at risk of sudden sinking with an eruption because it changes the buoyancy of the water. The ships just drop like a rock. And it could also throw hot rocks known as ballistic projectiles. My ex-wife used to throw those at me.
That's not nice.
I know. Up through the water, into the air, above the ocean surface. Now, the rocks can go up to 3 miles or 5 kilometers into the air, so that's a threat to not only ships, but planes.
Is this close to any major islands that people know?
Grenada.
Oh, Grenada.
Yeah. And Kickamjenny volcano erupted in 1944 and killed 60 people when a ship sank instantly while it was sailing around there. So very, very interesting. Now, in addition to these earthquakes and volcanic eruptions and things like that, animals have been acting very strangely. Because there's been a continuation, again, I've mentioned this a couple of times, of animal attacks globally, especially sharks now. In fact, just this morning, before we did the podcast, there was a story of a man in Australia who was fishing with his daughter for scallops, and he didn't appear by the ship, so she was looking underwater, and he was being eaten by a shark.
Oh, my.
Mm-hmm.
I have a shark story.
You do?
I do.
Is it about a lawyer or a regular shark?
Do you have more stories?
Yes, I do.
Tell your story.
Calm down.
And then if you don't
All
do
right.
it, I'll go tell my shark story.
Now, there's also stories involving bears, which we had one around here that was wandering around.
Berrien County.
Yeah.
Berrien County, get it?
Duh. Alligators, bison, which these people in Yellowstone National Park are being attacked
But
and
they're-
thrown into the air.
You know what? It's their fault because they're too close. They're wild animals. They shouldn't be out close.
But you never heard of this before.
Well,
ever.
because maybe people are smart enough not to go near a wild animal. You
Well,
can't go
something's
20
going
feet
on.
from a bison and expect they're not going to be maybe attacked.
But there's even birds are attacking.
Yeah.
So when I look at it, changes in the Earth's magnetic field is causing animals to behave aggressively, and sharks are becoming aggressive because of the undersea earthquakes and volcanoes. Now, I want to.
Do you want me to tell my shark story now? or
All
do you
right,
wait?
go ahead. I'll go
I have to
ahead.
find it, of course.
Oh, we'll just sit and wait until you find it.
Okay, well, I actually have two unusual stories about animals, but I'm going to start with the shark story because you and I were talking about that one.
Yeah, but then I got to finish my.
Yeah, you can go back and finish your information.
Okay, but some people are making their own shark cages.
I saw that.
Yeah, and then getting chased off of the beach.
I'm sure that they're not really good shark
No.
cages.
No, I don't. It's probably
It's
just.
got that crunchy material for the
Right,
shark when
right.
it bites them.
It says here, Mr. Shark. Anyway, off of the coast of North Carolina, they've set a record-breaking year of shark attacks.
Yeah, so why are people still going in the water there?
Yeah, and
Did you see the one of the surfer who was fighting off an attack? He was in a surf competition.
Oh, yes,
That
right.
one?
And the one on Long Island, too.
yeah, that one I have here too. And
They're all over the place
now this says lifeguards at Tobay Beach in Oyster Bay, New York, ordered swimmers out of the water because two sharks approximately 6 feet long were seen swimming nearby.
Now, sharks normally aren't seen up in that area, are
Yeah,
they?
and sometimes.
Sunday, okay, well anyway, so that, and then the other one, in Florida, they're called sea hares.
What's that?
That-
That's when your hair falls off in the water?
No, they said that these sea hares have been seen all over
All
is
over
it?
the beaches.
Well, I had never heard of them before, but they made it sound like that most people know what they are. It says they have little projections on their head that make them look almost like a rabbit, and they emit a purple ink to defend themselves from predators. I never heard of this.
No.
And then they said because of their extensive neural circuits interconnecting neurons in the brain that pass messages, sea hares are often used in medical research.
I've never heard of
But
it.
apparently there are
So many over the beaches that people couldn't count them.
Which beach?
in Florida.
Oh.
Let me see if I have the name of the beach or not.
You sure they weren't just old people lying around on the sand?
Just said that spotted recently along the Florida coast, but there were so many of them.
That they couldn't count them. So sharks, sea hares, and I'd never heard of a sea hare, and they're making it sound like we should know what that is.
Oh, and the other thing I saw was an image of a seal taking a big bite out of a sunfish off the coast of San Diego, which I didn't know seals did things like that.
They
I
eat
mean,
fish.
the sunfish is huge.
No, but they eat fish.
Yeah, but it took like this gigantic
Some-
bite out.
We've seen seals. I mean, some of them are huge. We've
Yeah,
seen-
but not to bite a sunfish. I
Sure.
mean, sunfish are gigantic. And back to me.
Back to you.
Back to me. Now, here's a couple of stories I want to share with you because we talked about this at our Green Star webinar, but it's very appropriate.
But I want to mention too, if you missed the Green Star programming webinar, we do have that now available for you on pay-per-view. So this is gives you a little bit of a preview
Yeah.
of some of the weirdness we discussed there.
Yes, because this to me is Green Star programming activation and or a mysterious story because according to the news, and this is conventional news, a mysterious LA loner with $5 million gun arsenal in his house was a human-alien hybrid secret agent sent to save the human race.
Yeah, it's unconventional news, correct?
Conventional news. He's identified as 60-year-old Jeffrey Allen Lash, and there's that middle name Allen program,
A-L-A-N.
which is my middle name too, but don't tell anybody.
I won't.
He's from LA County. He died July 4th, but wasn't found till July 17th. Yuck. He must have smelled pretty bad. Well, it's because his fiancée, Catherine Nebron, and her employee, Dawn Vod Bunker, dumped his body.
Vod?
Vod
Isn't that
Bunker.
like the guy that The other guy? No, that was Vaughn.
Oh, yes.
That was somebody else.
And because they thought the CIA was going to come pick him up. Now, in the house, they found 1,200 guns and 6.5 tons of ammunition.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And
Did you know a dairy cow weighs about a ton?
no, Jen,
that's like
only you know about dairy
So that's like
cows.
6.5 dairy cows.
So,
ammunition.
right. Now, an investigation into he was walking in a parking lot in Santa Monica, and he couldn't breathe, and his girlfriend wanted to take him to the hospital, and he said no, because he's an alien and they'll see us. So he just died, and so they just stuffed his body in the car, and then they drove up to Oregon.
With the
They
body
left
in the
the
car?
body in the car, and they took her car and went.
But she was a long time girlfriend.
Yeah, they were going to get married. Now, according to the investigation, it took a bizarre turn when they found that this man's fiance believed he was part human, part alien creature who was sent to save humanity and working as a secret agent with the United States. And her family described him as a weird loner. And the employee said he was a human-alien hybrid working undercover on behalf of secret U.S. government agencies. Now, the family also said, it's worse than a Twilight Zone movie, and we've lived through hell. The man had trouble breathing, but refused to be taken to the hospital. So here's my questions. How can you store 1,200 firearms and 6.5 tons of ammunition worth $5 million and go unnoticed, and the government didn't know you had this?
Where did he get $5 million
Yeah, who paid for the weapons? Who delivered them and stored them? And was there an autopsy? And what was found? That the story's been dropped off the face of the earth.
So let me tell you something else. He had $230,000 cash, I read, stored in his house. Plus, I read he had a Toyota SUV that was designed to go underwater.
Now, why would he need that to go?
Plus, he had 14 vehicles registered in his name. So
that wasn't suspicious to the authorities, right there.
But the point is again, money. What was behind all of this? They don't say who employed
So
him.
here's the thing: either he really was an agent and used the alien thing as a cover, or he really was an alien hybrid. Either way, the story is strange, and they dropped it.
Let's keep our eyes open just in case we see something else.
Now, speaking of other strange triggers for programming, here's a 69-year-old man in Colorado, lives in a cabin by himself, who sleeps in the Klingon ambassador's quarters because he converted his entire remote Colorado cabin to a Star Trek shrine. He's a 69-year-old man named Steve Goman. He says makes him happy and gave him a life. There's curiosity. And guess this. His friends and family, they think there's something wrong with me. Oh, you think?
Maybe.
My house is a Star Trek shrine. You think something wrong with me?
Well, it's more than a shrine. It replicates the inside of the ship. You have to go look at this link because the pictures are incredible what this man has done.
Anyway, he said that Star Trek gave him a life. He was always interested in the future. He never liked being in the now. My life was always agonizing because I struggled. The future gave me a way to get out of that. And Star Trek became a bridge for me, like a crutch. Interesting word. I like to live in the future. It feels safer for me. Now, this is typical of a deeply programmed person who does not stay in the present. They either live in the past or live in the future.
And they don't
There's
stay in
no
this
grounding.
reality.
There's no grounding. They don't stay in the reality. And he says, I feel like I'm a survivor. Of what? That's the question. Now, he's 69 years old, and he says he's going to do this until he's 73. So that's 4 more years. Why would he pick 73 unless some event?
I'll tell you what's going to happen. His house is going to lift off.
Well, he said, this is my version of playing in the future, so my house and everything I have created is used just like a normal house. So not grounded in the present, obviously time-sensitive activations. He's a member of Denver's Klingon Club, which I had no idea there was a club, and an honorary member of the International Federation of Trekkies.
Whatever that means.
Right. Now, he grew up with a learning disability, which is a standard side effect of deeply programmed people. And he says, since I've been fighting to be someone, to show people I'm a normal human being. Well, you're not a normal human being. And if you want to be someone, that means you feel you have no self-identity. Again, a programming side effect. He said, my Star Trek hobby is the first time I've done anything just for myself, the first time I put myself first. In other words, front altar comes forward to take effect of the body. Now, a related, because there's been a lot of alien stuff going on in the news this week.
This was also on the Green Star programming webinar,
Yes,
right?
because NASA has said that there are billions of planets with life, and they have found a planet in, they call the Goldilocks zone, which means it's just right. And so that's a programming term right there, Goldilocks, that kind of thing. Now they predicted, now they don't know what the weather's going to be this afternoon.
And they can't find a plane.
They can't find a plane that supposedly crashed in the ocean. But they predicted a total of 228 planets in 151 solar systems that could have habitable planets. Now, they didn't say a couple of hundred. They said 228, a specific number. And they didn't say, 100 solar systems. They said 151. So they're giving you information, right? And they said they found Earth 2.
Okay, I want to tell you something about Earth 2.
Mm-hmm.
I
Which
also
was
read an
a
article.
science fiction show once,
I also read an article similar to about this thing, and they called it Earth's twin. So now here we go back into our twinning program.
Yes, but the official name is Kepler 452b, and they said it's the most similar planet to our own ever found, with substantial opportunity for life. Of course, they've never been there.
That's what they say anyway.
They said the planet has the same size orbit as Earth, the same length of year. They said they don't know if it has alien life, but if we transfer plants there, they might live. Well, how do you know that?
Right.
So again, a lot of triggering for staged alien invasion and Green Star, and over to you, Jim.
Well, I think that they have been there.
I'm sure they already know what it is.
Of course. So speaking of triggering, I wanted you to discuss this before we move along. You heard about the woman, Sandy Bland, who was killed. I say killed in her jail cell. They're calling it a suicide.
It was a car. She was stopped for speeding.
She was stopped because she changed lanes without a turn signal. And then when the officer asked her to put out her cigarette because she was smoking and she refused, then that's when he offered to, quote, light her up, pull her out of her car, and things progressed, and then she was resisting arrest, and she wound up in a jail cell, blah, blah, and now she's dead.
Right.
So we have, and somebody posted this on my Facebook page, and to make the connection, which we have Hurricane Sandy, we have Sandy Hook, and now we have this woman, Sandy Bland. So you were talking about what Sandy means, so I wanted you to share that because I think that's very telling.
Oh, you want me to say it now?
No, I want you to say it a year from now at 10, 12.
Can you just be nice for 2 minutes?
Yes, now please tell them.
Well, it's san without de, God. San de, sandi.
Without God.
Without God.
So there's a reason something happened to this
And
woman.
remember a couple of years ago they used the French also when Gérard Depardieu went to Russia, and Depardieu, God leaves. Depardieu.
Yeah, well, there you go. So here, just keep watching these things and putting the together. As Stewart and I are telling you, they are telling you what they're doing. You just have to know how to interpret it. So along with this guy from Lafayette who killed all these people in the theater, which I think that's going to have an effect on what Obama's administration wants to do now. Apparently now he wants to ban, the administration, it's not really him, of course he's the puppet, it wants to ban some Social Security recipients from owning guns. Did you read that one?
Only Social Security recipients?
Well, because the thing is, if they can't get people to do it voluntarily, they're going to start picking on people, and then like everything else, a little here, a little there, and then pretty soon nobody will have a gun. So this is now the new, in my opinion, the new push. They said that this could potentially affect millions whose monthly disability payments are handled by others. It's intended to bring the Social Security Administration in line with laws that prevent gun sales to felons, drug addicts, immigrants in the United States illegally, and others. We don't know what others are.
Right.
So anybody,
Like possible presidents.
anybody they say that is unable to manage their own affairs should not be able to own a gun.
Well,
So
that's like everyone on the earth.
they said they're going to use a marked subnormal intelligence, mental illness, incompetency, condition, or disease.
They just named everybody in the United States.
That's right. And so apparently they want the Social Security Department to use the same background check system as the Department of Veteran Affairs. And so they said this could affect 4.2 million adults who are currently receiving monthly benefits that are managed by representative payees. So this is another way to take guns out of American society. Who's going to stop them?
May I tell you a quick Obama story?
Sure.
Because you know he's in Kenya now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, and it's funny because the news in Kenya said, "Welcome home."
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he went on to bash Kenya, saying that they're being very mean to gay people and they're corrupt, and the president of Kenya is like right there. So it's like that was really brilliant. And then the president of Kenya said that all what Obama mentioned are non-issues. So then to make it lightened up, Obama said, well, probably people think I'm here to find my birth certificate. Too late, Mr. Obama, we already have it.
Yeah, right. All right, and then moving along, I talked last week about all the missing doctors, the alternative healthcare doctors.
Right.
Well, there are more that are missing now.
Really?
Apparently, this says only 7, but I'm counting more than
There's
that.
a lot more than that.
It says in 1 month's time, they've either died under strange circumstances or are victims of brutal murders. Now
Wow.
listen to this. There are also 5 who have simply vanished, along with 1 medical attorney. So apparently, it says 13 medical workers involved in high-profile cases in 30 days. It says and then I have a list of the previous murder doctors, so you can find that on the link. I'm not going to go through that. But then apparently, there was one of the last ones, 2 adult women and 3 girls aged 6 and under were found dead on this just this past Saturday. One of them was identified as Dr. Amanda Cruz, a mother and devoted physician known for treating low-income patients. Apparently, she divorced her husband and then started seeing a man who is now suspected of the killings. And this is the first suspect of the murders that they've actually been able to find. So
He's probably programmed to kill her.
yeah. So as I said, there's so much triggering going on right now. It's amazing. And now this also, speaking of programming and everything that's going on in the world, did you know that Muslims cannot take out a loan because of they are not allowed under Sharia law to pay interest?
Well, I know a lot of Muslims and they have loans.
Well, this one says Seattle officials are joining a push for Sharia, is that how you say it? Sharia compliant mortgage loans, a proposal in Seattle meant to increase home ownership among Muslims by offering financing compliant with strict Islamic law, is gaining ground in the latest test for local leaders trying to accommodate diverse religious beliefs.
So they get to have a mortgage with no interest?
According to Seattle Mayor Ed Murray, during a press conference July 13th, quote, "We will work to develop new tools for Muslims who are prevented from using conventional mortgage products due to their religious beliefs." So apparently there are other financial institutions working.
Why haven't they done that with religious Jews or with the fundamentalist Christians?
Or poor people.
Or anybody else?
Or poor people. They said that Seattle has 30,000 practicing Muslims, apparently. Seattle is following in the footsteps of Chicago, it says, as well as national financial firms and lenders like Bank of America. And apparently in 2008, conservative lawmakers in Congress went after American International Group for offering Sharia-compliant insurance programs. Anyway, it says that, of course, it's all money-based. Global Islamic financial assets have soared from $600 billion in 2007 to more than $1.3 trillion in 2012.
Wow, they look as much as the Vatican.
So therefore, they want to get the money, and if they do this for them, that's also going to make a lot of people upset because there are a lot of poor people. I mean, you know, how much money do we pay every month on our mortgage?
Only
and
you know that.
About 10% of it goes to principal, and about 90% goes to interest. And over 30 years, that's a lot of interest we're paying.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I thought that is
Maybe we
interesting.
should become Muslim.
Well, people might just because to take advantage of this. I mean,
Then,
that's
that
major.
could be the reason.
Oh, maybe to try and blend people
I
together.
think we just found the reason.
It's possible.
Now here's another interesting story, I think, because we study all the different religions that are out there because there, in my opinion, there's truth in all religions, but they're all developed for mass mind control.
God has no religion.
No, we have no religion because we're the same. Well, let's put it this way: we're the same religion as God.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so there's something for everybody, and one of the most misunderstood segments of religious diversity, I think, are the Mormons. And this was interesting because I found an article called 13 Facts You Don't Know About Mormons. So I picked out 3 or 4 of the ones I didn't know about. Now I knew about that they wore the underwear after the.
I hope they wear underwear.
No, it's a white underwear. It's a full body
Special
garment.
one.
It's a special full body one they wear once they're consecrated in their temples. And they call this the whole armor of God, which is interesting
Right.
because we actually have a template
Right.
called the armor of God,
Right.
which you can use for protection. Okay, now listen to this. On their white undershirt and white boxer brief style shorts or pants, I didn't know this, they're adorned with symbols to remind Mormons of their covenants. I would love to see the symbols.
You don't know what they are.
I don't know what they are, and I didn't
You have to
research
undress
that.
a Mormon and find out.
Or if some of you Mormons, because we do have Mormons, non-Mormons,
Some of you
and
Mormons, send
Mormons.
us your underwear picture.
Send us pictures of your symbols because
Yes,
I'm curious
please.
to see how those relate to our archetypes.
Do they have Mormon mankinis?
Well, not according to this picture. It's a full body suit,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't work for you because
Don't send it if you're having a Mormon kini,
No.
Mormon kini.
because Stewart only likes the kini things.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, and then apparently the Mormon founder and prophet Joseph Smith taught that there was life on the moon.
Well, there is.
But it's interesting that they're actually taught that. And listen to this one: the Mormons believe that the devil and Jesus are brothers.
Hello, I told you they were twins.
Yeah, so, and that's more of what we've been talking about, Mormon. And the CIA and the FBI have Mormon recruitment programs
Of course they do.
because, like we talked about, every religious
They
sect.
also recruit the Amish
Yeah,
and the Hasidic Jews.
yeah. So people that you would least suspect, and they're saying it's because of their strong morals. I'm saying it's because
No, it's
of their
because they good
programming.
cover.
That's right. And Mormonism is one of the fastest growing religions in America.
It is?
That's
Well, I
what it
thought
says.
Islam was.
Well, it's one.
Maybe we should be a Mormon Islam.
Maybe. It could be all of them, really.
There could be something
God
there.
encompasses everything. And then this was interesting in Sydney. There is a chapel called St. Charbel's.
Oh, yes.
The Virgin Mary's lips are seen moving in a painting
Now,
as they say the Hail
that
Mary.
was freaky.
I've posted the link actually on my Facebook page.
Yeah, let me know what you think, people.
Because, dolls, I'm going to revert to dolls, and we've talked about this before. Dolls were actually originally created to invoke astral entities.
So they could animate the body.
It's kind of like a golem.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, now we're seeing this happen. My personal feeling is that it is an astral entity.
I think so too.
Something is happening in this picture.
Right.
You've got to
Right.
watch
It's
it.
part of the New World religion or the stage second coming.
And some of dolls, were made originally without faces. And the reason they're without faces, like the Amish don't put faces on their dolls, is because that allows the astral entities to create their own face.
That's creepy too.
Dolls are always, to me, have been a little creepy. So, but anyway, take a look at this and let us know what you think. Then we have El Nino. Now we talked about El Nino. El Nino
means a little child.
disappearing.
It's disappearing.
Well, that's what we wrote about. Remember El Nino?
No, but they just said that it's getting bigger.
Yes, but first they said it disappeared. Now they said it's coming back. See, that's the thing. Flip and flop, flip and flop. And that's what's causing California to have heavy floods and so forth.
Right.
Now they're saying because of that there's going to be an intense El Nino event this winter.
Oh.
But they're still saying that because of El Nino, 2015 will be the warmest winter on record all over the world.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, so we'll watch for that one. Now this is interesting as well because a climatologist for NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory says be careful what you wish for because great droughts usually end in great floods. Now, the reason that's interesting to me because of California, should there be an earthquake? As a result of, first of all, it's a dry and cracking, right? So we've got all the cracks open.
Right.
Now we flood it with water.
And then it lubricates the cracks.
That's right. And then the great flood might be the ocean flooding over California. So just watch this story. And did you hear about Stephen Hawking, who is now joining a Russian billionaire, Yuri Milner, his organization called Breakthrough Initiatives,
to search for extraterrestrial intelligence. They're actually funding, they're telling us $100 million quest. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less, who knows. But anyway, they're committed to finding the answer to search for life beyond Earth, and they're going to create such a huge network that they're claiming they're going to be able to collect in one day the same amount of data that would have taken 1 year to collect before the program.
How are they going to do that?
Because they're building a computer, a huge computer that's going to do that, a supercomputer, one of the biggest ones in the world. They'll have 9 million volunteers donating spare computing power to a worldwide network,
So,
scanning
in other words,
the skies.
they're going to have millions of people get this information for free for them, and then they're going to take the
Right.
credit.
But this is the interesting part. 1 year, the same amount of data it would take 1 year. So in other words, before if they would tell you 100 years, now they can say, oh, with all these people, in 100 days, 3 months, we've collected 100 years worth of information, and now this is what we're going to tell you. And then they'll say, oh, we have more people than we thought. Instead of 100 days, it took us like 100 minutes. So anyway, well, let's continue to watch this show. And along that line, did you know China is building the largest massive radio telescope in the world? Bigger than Puerto Rico's observatory. They have found a valley that's going to have a 500-meter aperture spherical telescope known as FAST.
Wow. And they're going to take out laundry too?
They're gonna, yeah. And they're going to look for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. So now we have this Russian billionaire, we have Hawking, we have China. So everybody's looking for life, and they claim we're going to find it.
It's because they already
Because it's
found
coming.
it.
Okay, I have to skip past all my shark and sea hair stories.
Did you have the story about, or did we already talk about that, the Northern Hemisphere frozen weather coming?
I think you might have talked about that.
I did already?
I think
Last week?
Last week, I think.
Okay.
Okay, and then I brought this story up because it's a small story, but I think it's telling. This is actually in Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan.
There's a 600 village called Kalachi. And apparently, and I've been watching this story because it's kind of coming
Oh
on.
yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, where the people all of a sudden fall asleep. And the people don't know why. It's a 600-person village. They said somebody's driving a motorcycle, they fall asleep. They're driving a car, they fall asleep. They fall out of bed, they pass out in school. And sometimes it takes days before they snap out of it. So
usually it's called potheads.
Well, but this is in a little village in Kazakhstan, so I don't think that's the issue. I think that they're being beamed with some kind of programming.
No, they said they found out what it was.
Yeah, they're claiming it's bad vodka.
No.
Or hydrocarbons.
No.
What?
The news story is that they found the source was a uranium mine.
No.
That was nearby, that was emitting toxic energies that were making people pass out.
No, I don't know where you got that.
That was just last week on the
This is this one, suspected to be coming from a nearby uranium
Yeah,
mine.
there you go.
But it would have to be in concentrations high enough for illness in open spaces. So they don't think it's that. They're talking about carbon monoxide. They're talking about hydrocarbons. They're talking about...
Or maybe it's just a Russian mind control test.
That's what I'm telling you it is. Because they sent researchers there, finally, to see what's going on. And so nobody would be interested in a small town with these things happening. They would be only too glad to be rid of the inhabitants. So my feeling is, yes, it is some kind of a mind control experiment out in the Tules where nobody has all the electronics and whatnot.
Let me tell you something. I've been in Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
The whole thing is empty.
Yeah, that's what I said. So it's be an easy place to target these people. Now, also there's an all-transgender modeling agency opening up in Los Angeles.
Oh.
So again, making things more and more mainstream. Then this was also interesting. There's an amputee of a nude amputee calendar.
Oh, I saw that.
It's called Always Loyal, which highlights the wounded U.S. Army, Navy, and Marine veterans.
Right.
Now, again, at first glance, this sounds like maybe a nice project, just make people feel like, they're people, because they have, unfortunately, suffered some physical loss. But we have been noticing more and more different things. I showed a video not too long ago of a woman who was dancing and using her prosthetics as part of her sexual routine. And we saw a movie not too long ago where the woman walked on 2 points and she used those as swords, to kill all her victims. So again, I think there's something going on here. I haven't quite figured this one out, but we have to watch what they're doing.
But they're doing that with a lot, like they're doing overweight people
Yeah.
and transgender people,
Right.
LGBT people, like all kinds of things.
Right, and my feeling is in general, it's who are you, what are you?
Well, it's to show that there is no standard. You can look like anything,
Right.
be any kind of alter, and
Yes.
that's okay.
Yeah, that is,
That's just from programming
yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Now,
Go ahead.
I don't know if you saw. I don't think you have this in your news, but there was a story this morning about a man in L.A. who murdered 2 women.
Oh, I saw that story, but I didn't report on it. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and then when the police came, or the neighbor checked on
Yeah.
the man had cut his own arm off and
Yes.
cut his eye out,
Yes,
Now,
and
that-
decapitated his victims.
and 2 dogs or something like
Yes,
that, like, and then
yes.
cut his own arm. So that is not a person in their right mind.
Correct.
To me, it looks like, yes, it could be drugs, but not just drugs. That is the possession of a very negative demonic entity, and that's what that's about.
No, there's a lot of things going on. This is why you must do your work, because you don't want to attract it to yourself. You don't want anything that's latent within you to come out, to be triggered. It's very important you be diligent in your work right now. And a lot of people just do these things because they think, oh, that would be fun, or that's bizarre, let's try this, let's try that. But it opens the portals to other things that you may not be able to control,
Yes,
but will control you.
And so does the magnetic changes of volcanic activity and seismic activity.
All of these things.
So people in those areas are subjected to more demonic attachments
Yes,
and
absolutely.
evil acts.
And speaking of which, now I had never heard of this term, maybe you have, called a black swan. Have you heard
Well,
of
I
that
have
term?
a black swan, yeah.
You know what a black swan is?
Yeah.
What?
It's a swan that's black.
Okay, well there apparently this is a slang term for a person who lets people drink their blood. And there is a woman, again I have this story, you can go online and read it, but she's 28, so she travels apparently across the United States. She uses razor blades, makes cuts in her arms, and lets people drink her blood.
Because she needs to get a job.
So, and speaking of, again, in my opinion, this has to do with programming. There's a professor named Francis O'Gorman who says that anxiety and sleepless nights are actually good for you, and worrying is good for
Well,
you.
then I'm healed.
Because that means part of the brain's way of planning ahead. It says numbers of people not sleeping well have swollen due to complexity and demands of modern life. So my point is again, okay, yeah, let's keep you awake because it's easier to instill the programming. You're not as...
Well, you have to change. You have to go to sleep to get the programming set.
But then, yeah, they'll let you sleep maybe 2 or 3 hours, but if they can keep you awake and anxious, and then again, you can't get through your
Well,
day.
it's called psychic driving.
That's right, and you get more upset, and things in the daytime bother you more, and so forth. So
The story of my life.
people need to sleep. So now they're saying, hey, this is good for you. So what was good was bad, what was bad was
Finally,
good.
I fit into a category that's good.
Well, it's not good. So anyway, you must take care of your mind, you must take care of your body, and you need to rest at night. So when you see these things, don't think, oh, well, such and such says it must be true. No, go
Well, if it's on
within.
CNN.
Go. This is, conventional news. Now, also last week, this is my last story. You probably think,
Yay.
good. Anyway, this was in response to my kale story, where I talked about that kale is not as good for you as what people.
Right.
And I've kind of been telling people this all along.
Right. A lot of vegetables.
But we
are
got
good.
it on our blog, on our membership side. We have a homeopathic vet who sent this comment in, which was such a good comment. I'm going to share it with you.
Did you get her permission?
I'm not telling her name.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
reading the quote. So she wrote about my kale story. She says it's true. She said, I used to add kale to my smoothies and I ended up with kidney stones. Now, a lot of people don't realize that oxalic acid is present in many of the really dark green leafy vegetables.
Which is toxic.
Which is toxic. And in my research, actually, this is why rhubarb, the leaves are toxic, because it's so high in oxalic acid, it will kill you. So oxalic acid is out there, and same with spinach. You can't eat overdose on spinach. You can't eat too much chard.
No.
A lot of these dark greens in moderation, but not anyway the way they're trying to make you eat it now. She goes on to say, people don't realize that 40% of the plants on this planet are poisonous.
Right.
Plants don't want to be eaten.
See,
Listen
vegetarians.
to this. And vegans, and many defend themselves by secreting bitter, toxic alkaloids and saponins, cyanide, glycosides, and tannins.
Even herbivores poison themselves. That's why you'll see herbivore animals eating clay or mud in an attempt to counteract the toxic plants they just ate. Plus, what's toxic to one animal is not toxic to another.
Right.
That is why survivalists say do not assume a plant is safe to eat because you see an animal eating it.
Correct.
And she says, to all my vegan friends out there who think our ancient ancestors were major plant eaters, just remember, the veggies and fruits you eat today are domesticated.
And changed.
In the wild, they would be too bitter or toxic to eat. Just try a wild apple and you'll be sick for a week. So, my point is that when you see all these things being promoted on the mainstream, for me that's always a red flag. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with kale, but it means, why are they all of a sudden promoting this person, that person, this food, that food, this idea or that idea? Stop and think. And I was thinking about this thing with this Bruce Jenner story. Because, if 20 or 30 years ago people would say, well, guess what? One of these days you're going to see Bruce Jenner
I still can't believe
parade
it.
around in high heels and act like a woman.
I don't know what happened.
People would say you're nuts. The thing that is very telling to me about that story is after he had his facial feminization surgery, he woke up, looked in the mirror, and his first reaction was, oh my God, what did I do to myself?
I'll tell you, a back altar came forward and you lost your mind. That's what happened.
So to me, that was the real Bruce who's still in there somewhere. And then remember,
Too late now.
his original name was supposed to be Belinda. Now that is B. Linda. And his first wife's name was Linda. So when people were questioning why he wanted to be Linda, to me that would be a programming set all through his married life with her. Now they suddenly switch it. We never heard any more about Belinda. And now we're switched to Caitlin. So
It's a
again,
good thing I don't want to be Janet.
it's a good thing. The issue is be who you are supposed to be, not what they're telling you to be. And that is very important as we move through these days.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to remind people about our next webinar, which is about Montauk and interdimensional realities.
Right.
That will end on Montauk Day, August 12th. So we have some fascinating information for you. You will want to participate.
Yes.
Sign up because, again, the webinars fill up and you'll be left without a spot. Then our next one is our radionics. And I told you about the radionics machine last podcast, so I'm not going to go into it in detail. But you can just see how beautiful it is. Mm-hmm. We've set it up for you already. And this requires this is the large box. There's no electricity to it. And this is the way we're going to teach you how to help boost the mind pattern. It doesn't correct you. You have to do your work. But if you're doing your work, this can help boost you to where you want to go. So let's go ahead and set this down.
It's really an amazing...
It's an amazing box. These are built to our specifications. 99.9% pure copper. We have our silver bezels. We have beautiful amethyst. Everything is very high
Well, you
frequency
mentioned some of
quality.
these already then.
Then we have, directly after that, Stewart's leaving.
But also a couple of radio shows coming
But
up.
you're going to have to mention that because I
Well,
can't
I
read
don't
your
know.
writing.
Well, sure you can.
No, I can't.
Well, this month, I did it by month. So August we have the Montauk webinar, Radionic seminar, a few radio shows, and the London seminar at the very end of August.
Right, you're going overseas to Europe. So watch our site. We have some things that are being pre-sold at a reduced price. So you want to get those before those sell out because some days have sold out.
And then in September I'll be in Karpacz, Poland, Trier, Germany, Istanbul, Amman, and Qatar for consultations and seminar. October, well, the beginning of October is my new grandson being born. We still don't, they changed his name again, so.
No, that's normal.
Yeah. Then we have our expansions conference.
Yeah, Hidden Histories and Hidden Mysteries, Digging Deeper. Now that's going to feature Mary Sutherland, who is a paranormal researcher from Burlington, Wisconsin. She's going to be bringing some never-before-shown artifacts, so you want to be sure and hear her presentation. She's also going to be speaking about red-haired giants in North America.
Ooh.
She has quite extensive research on a variety of topics right here in North America that are fascinating.
I have relatives in Sweden who are red-haired giants.
Steve Spirason will be speaking about Isis and the Magdalene frequency. It's going to be interesting. And Christopher Garitano will be presenting the Montauk Chronicles movie. You will be watching it with Christopher and Stewart, and myself, of course. And then they will be answering your questions at the end of the movie.
So that's going to be happening in October.
Yes, and then after that, still in October, is the seminar and consultations in Poznan, Poland, Berlin, Germany, Singapore, and Bintan Island, Indonesia, at the Sanchaya Resort. Then we get into November, and I will be in Bali, Montevideo, Uruguay, and Barcelona, which in Barcelona, we are now working with Richard Williams of New Dimensions Television.
Look at our Facebook page. We've already got a couple of nice posts on
I
there.
just did 2 TV shows with him, which will be posted, published or broadcast in a couple of weeks. And he would like to work with us in the future at his studio in Barcelona and doing more television work, etc. So I'll be going there from Uruguay. Then December, we're just staying.
Chilling out.
Yeah. And it will be chilling, despite what
Despite
the El Nino.
Right, because we're going to be preparing for our January. This is our biggest
Yes,
class.
right.
Our January Hyperspace Oversoul Extravaganza, 7 days. You come here to St. Joseph, and we choose winter purposefully because that's the time when everything is quiet and you can go inside and focus on your inner self.
What if it's an El Nino winter and it's warm?
Well, then we're going to figure that one out.
That's never happened.
No,
Anyway.
not yet.
No.
But anyway, it's your time to go inside. So a lot of people register now. They can, if it is a larger chunk of your funds, because you get a larger chunk of information back. So some people put that on a payment plan. If you're interested, you need to talk to Patricia as soon as possible. The classes always fill up. Customer support at expansions.com, January 2016.
And then right after that is Janet's birthday, a big, big birthday. She's 110 years old.
Yes, I'm doing so well.
You know, and perfectly preserved.
Yes.
And we'll be doing something special for her on her birthday, but not in the United States.
No.
And here's something. We mentioned a couple of weeks ago for people to send in their podcast questions, and but this week you didn't. So I don't have any podcast questions. What's the matter? People ran out of questions?
Maybe we just tell too much information.
Maybe, yeah. I'm going to stop talking.
Yeah. So anyway, if you have questions, do send those in. Customer support at expansions.com. June of 2016, we are going on an Alpine Clear tour to the Cotian Alps, where the Waldensians walked, and walk those paths, because we're going to be talking in October about clear energy and how to use it. And we're going to be teaching you up in the Alps then in June of 2016, because that's where the air is clear. The water is clear. You drink it right out of the mountain streams. It's amazing. Everything is clear up there, where you can clear your mind, clear your soul, clear your energy.
And then I'm supposed to do a time travel seminar near Milan. Right
And then in that time period, probably, I'm not sure if that's before or after, but if you decide to go on the Alpine Tour Clear Tour, Spiritual Health and Healing Tour.
And there's going to be something in between January and June, but
There'll be plenty.
yeah.
But the issue is, the other thing is people now, of course, now as things are getting busier, writing about Days with Stewart.
Yeah.
And that's, there really are none.
There are no more left.
No, it's 20...
We're done.
Yeah, we're pretty well done for 2015. So if you want a day with Stewart, you're going to have to book it in advance and talk to Patricia about that. But we might have 1 or 2 left in December, but that would be about it. And that's we might. I'm not sure.
Between all these new sponsors in Europe and the TV shows and all that, I mean, I can be here.
No, but December would be probably about your last chance for this year. There might be 1 or 2. I'm not sure. I have to talk to Patricia.
Well, we have a long podcast today.
We do. Well, we have so many good stories. What can we say?
Yeah, that's because you just can't be quiet, can you?
Talking to yourself again.
Anyway, I think that's it for now.
That's it for now.
We will see. Will we see them in August? Yes, we have to see them in August.
Why wouldn't we see them?
Because you're going to be on a road trip.
Yeah, but you're going to be here.
I'm doing one myself.
You have to do it by yourself.
Mm.
See if you can and behave yourself. I don't want you showing up like nude in your mankini or something.
Well, you know what? You're not here.
Because the other day we were getting ready for the podcast, and here you come tromping up the stairs in your mankini, and I say, Stuart, go down and put some clothes on.
With the special archetypes on it.
Yeah.
It was my Mormon mankini.
So anyway, please do not wear that if I'm not here to
We'll see.
supervise you.
We'll see.
Behave yourself.
Have you ever known me to behave myself?
No, that's my issue here. All right?
Anyway, that's it for now, people. Send in a question or two. See you next time.
Bye.